Welcome to Genetic Alliance's webinar series. This is Sharon Terry, and we're delighted to welcome you all. We're especially delighted today to have our partner Inspire join us. This series has been called the Registries for All series, and our intention today is to actually branch out a little beyond the platform that we've created to create registries and instead also look at what else is needed. What in this world where we bring individuals together who have a variety of conditions or interests or concerns about health, do these individuals need? They certainly need the registry kind of system that we've been talking about for the last 4 or 5 webinars, and you can look at in our archive on Genetic Alliance/webinars. But they also need support. They need a place to gather, and they need connectivity. And that social network piece, that kind of novel community piece, is being brought to you by our partner Inspire. And so without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Brian and Danielle from Inspire. Before I do, I'm just going to remind everyone that you are on mute, not that you need a reminder for that, but that you can still participate fully. You can type questions in the question box. We will be reading those throughout the presentation and gathering them so that then we can ask those questions to Brian and to Danielle, and you can get answers. We will try to get to all of them before the end of the hour, and if we don't, what we do is certainly either we put you in touch with Inspire or you can directly contact them yourselves. They'll be giving us and you the contact information you need to get to communicate with them as well. And so without further ado, I turn it over to Inspire.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sharon. This is Brian Lowe. I'm the founder of Inspire. And with me are Danielle, who's our head of partnerships, and Heather, who's head of community. And I just want to take the time today to share with you what we do, how we work together with Genetic Alliance, and what I hope we can do for each of you. I just want to tell you briefly about the screen you're seeing right now. I'm sure some of you have used Inspire in the past. What you're looking at right now, and you're welcome to go to it sometime if you go to inspire.com/now, is what's happening in real time in Inspire around rare disease. And these are words that are being written by the members of Inspire, and you see them showing up on your screen. So I welcome you to look at that at any time to get a real feel for sort of what it's like. I'm going to go through some slides now, and normally I love questions and I don't mind being interrupted, but I know because of the format today, we'll have sort of questions later on. So I'll just begin by talking what Inspire is all about. We built Inspire based on some really strong fundamental principles, and our belief is that value is created by patients and caregivers, that is by each one of us. All of us at some point in our lives are patients or caregivers, and we understand that people need control of their own privacy, how it's shared, what's shared. That's absolutely fundamental. They need clarity, and I see the word is in there twice. That is, we should communicate with you clearly, and there should not be ambiguity. And you need to feel safe. You need to feel safe in everything that you do in the community. The word that's missing from here is transparency, and that's pretty crucial here for us, because whenever we communicate with our members and our constituents and our partners, we always try to be absolutely transparent. There's nothing to hide. There shouldn't be, and it's important that everything be described. And we found in general that when people are treated with respect and as adults, they're able to make decisions on their own, and that's the best way to do everything. So you should think of Inspire as a platform to engage with your constituents and your members. And this is the name of a real member. Her name is Stubborn. She's at the middle. And you can see all the different things that she can do as part of Inspire. She can connect. She can learn about clinical trials. She can create medical profiles. She can connect to others through the website. She can use her mobile devices, and she can control her privacy. And I'll get into more depth about sort of how that works. A little bit more about the organization Inspire. So we have the thing that makes us unique, I believe, is that we have 85 national patient advocacy organizations like Genetic Alliance that are our partners. And these form 85 of the 200 or so disease groups in Inspire. Inspire gets quite a bit of traffic and quite a few registered members. And the statistic that I love more than many is that these members have written 5.5 million posts containing 750 million words. And there's enormous value in those words, as we'll learn more about. We have a number of partners in rare and genetic disorders. And I point this out because it's really interesting to all of you. It's also, I think, a function of community and the nature of community for health conditions. Because of the fact that many of us are far away from each other, and with rare conditions we don't actually know people who live close to us or in our own neighborhood, the web is a wonderful place for us to connect, and I'll give some more examples of that in a moment. These are just some of our conditions and rare disorders. Here are some, I'll give you a read these. Here are some testimonials from some of our partners who, and I think, you know, it goes without saying that we invite you to talk to any and all of our partners as you think about partnering with Inspire. We work very, very hard to support the needs not only of our individual members but also of our patient advocacy partners. And by the way, we're happy to share this slide deck with you afterwards, and so I would say if you'd like, please, at the end we'll give you contact information and get in touch with Danielle, and she'll share all of this with you.
And also this, I forgot to say, this webinar is recorded, and the slides and the audio and video will be available on our site.
Great, great. If you look at the rare disease communities within Inspire, and I'm going to jump over to the web right now and show you what I mean. Here's, for example, the Genetic Alliance community within Inspire. I'm just going to give you a little bit of a tour here because I want to explain how it works. So the way that it works is you can join Inspire, you can join the Genetic Alliance community, and you can read what people are writing about. And there's an enormous amount of information in here that's useful to everyone, but there's other information that might only be useful to some of you. By the way, we divide the discussion topics into these categories that you see on the right-hand side. So, for example, if you just want to discuss financial issues, it's very easy to go into that section and talk about that enormous amount of discussion about that, for example. If you want to talk about children in school, there are people who are spending a lot of time talking about that. So we've tried to make it easy for people to spend time in the areas that they want. Now, with ultra-orphan and rare conditions, we encourage people to join the Genetic Alliance group. In fact, I would say that to anyone with a rare or genetic condition. But we've also created groups in Inspire for, as earlier, about 20 other groups. I'll show you some of those right now. So, for example, as I scroll down, and these are all of the groups in Inspire, for example, you can see some rare conditions scrolling by. I'm just going to jump into one. I'm going to go all the way down to Wilson's disease. One of the things we've realized is that someone, say, with Wilson's disease may want to spend 80% of their time in the Wilson's disease group, but then they might want to go back to the Genetic Alliance group for other things, or maybe the reverse is true. And we've created an environment where it's very easy for you to join with one single free membership for you to join 2 groups in Inspire. So you'll wake up in the morning and you'll have email from the Wilson's disease community, but you could also, included in that, have information from Genetic Alliance. But if you have Wilson's disease, here you are in the group, and that all these conversations are Wilson. It's possible for us to connect with one another. So if I click on the Members tab here, I can see the other members in the group, and I can see the gender and age. I can see people who are near me. I live in Princeton, New Jersey, and I can see the people that are close to me. And if I click on to say, who are the people within 50 miles of me, I click on that. Now I see these 50 members. These are the people in Inspire who are close to me who have an interest in Wilson's disease. Someone from Norristown, Pennsylvania, and we can read about her. And then if I want, I can send her a friend request, and we can become friends. This is a real social network. So people have friends. You can see that I have new friend requests from people, and I have a whole bunch of friends. I have to say that there are very deep relationships that have been built in Inspire. A whole bunch of people have become very, very close to one another, and that feels absolutely great. There's a private message system where people can send messages to each other, and that's used a great deal. I'm also, while I'm looking at this, what my privacy settings look like. I think all of us agree that privacy is crucial. What we've come to believe over the 8 years that we've been doing this is that when people say they care about privacy, that's true, but what they really, really care about is control. And so I'm going to show you in a minute the control panel for privacy. So what we say here is that we have certain default settings. I have changed to make myself very public. This is unusually public, and the default is not this public. But for example, I'd like my aids to be available only to members, or only to my Inspire friends, or to no one. Similarly, you could say that about your conditions, your friends, your et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Privacy is really important. We're going to talk more about this in a minute. I'm going to go to this. We'll do a little bit about how some of these groups grow. When we create a community, there are a couple of different ways that they grow. One of the most important ones is that is the way that you promote it to your constituents. Another really important one is Google and other search engines that contribute a great deal to discovery. And I'll tell you a great story about that in a rare heart condition in a moment. Once members join, they become really deeply involved in their health. So here, for example, just choosing one topic is genetic testing. And we look in 4 different groups here. Neurofibromatosis, tuberous sclerosis, lung cancer, and ovarian cancer. And if you look at conversations people are having around genetic testing, these aren't trivial, shallow conversations. These get pretty deep, and people get very involved. And frankly, there's just a wonderful wealth of knowledge that patients share with one another about any topic. Engagement is super high, and we care about this because we want it to be a place that people want to be and want to spend time. So it's a sampling looks. How recently people have engaged with the community. It's very high, and the list on the right is kind of stunning. These are the percentage of people who have posted something, and that's much higher than you see in typical social networks. Every member in Inspire has identity, so you don't have to use your real name. In fact, we encourage people to to not use their real name. They can if they wish. But the point is that identity is persistent. So that name lives with them for their entire membership, and Inspire, everything they write is done under that name, and that's important. They're able to, as I talked about earlier, to create profiles and share data and control their privacy. Just one moment. We talked about communication. One of the most valuable things we found is email. I know many of you have had listservs for a number of years. There's daily email that's sent from Inspire each day at about 4 o'clock in the morning, and it contains updates from what's happened in the last 24 hours. That's a format many of you are probably familiar with, and we found that good old-fashioned email is incredibly valuable and valued by members. So the idea is you wake up in the morning, there's emails showing you what's new in the last 24 hours in your group, and then you can click on those topics and easily jump into the community where you can dig deeper. Also support, as you'll be able to see, Twitter feeds and other feeds coming from the communities themselves. So your Twitter feeds, your RSS feeds, if you have them from your website, can flow into the community in a very straightforward fashion, and we'll take care of all that. We have help and member support. We track every request, and we support people. We endeavor to turn around help requests in well under 24 hours. And all of our communities have moderators. And we should talk about moderation a bit, and I'm sure you have questions about that. I should be quite clear that our moderators are moderating for behavior. They're making sure that members are civil to one another. They're helping them with support requests. They're making sure that people feel supported and able to use the site. But they are not scientific experts. I mean, we couldn't possibly be experts in 7,000 rare disorders. And so we look to our partners, that is you, to be experts in that area. So when I say moderators, I don't mean scientists, or experts in medical fields. I mean experts in running the community and supporting members. Something that comes up a lot is Facebook and Twitter, and I want to be quite clear that Inspire is not a replacement for Facebook, but rather it's complementary to Facebook. And here's an example, if you look at this page, of the National Cervical Cancer Coalition's Facebook page on the left, and their community and Inspire on the right. And what you see is that, if you spend time looking at these, is that there's very different behavior in these two different environments. So in Cervical Cancer Coalition's Facebook page, they're talking about raising money, fundraisers, getting the word out, run walks, that kind of thing. And in Inspire, they're having actual discussions about their medical conditions and having deep engagement around their disease. And that's an important distinction. So please do not feel that it's one or the other. In our opinion, it should be both. So what we're here to talk about today is we'd like to invite you to partner with Inspire, just as Genetic Alliance has. And Danielle is here as well to sort of elaborate, but I'm just going to run through kind of the reasons to do this. One is that if you're a qualified nonprofit or 501(c), this is free for you. We bear all the costs. Some of our partners spend a lot of staff time, and some spend none, and most are sort of somewhere in the middle. The point here is that because we handle moderation and we handle supporting all of the platform in the system, that's not something you have to worry about. On the other hand, if you have subject matter experts, medical advisory boards, founders and experts who can participate in the community, I think that is always a good thing, and we will give them administrator status to sort of allow them to run the community in a way that you're probably familiar with over all the years that you've run your listservs in other communities. And as we talked before, you can include a lot of your other social networking activities and your Twitter feeds and your email blasts and things like that to Inspire. Here about visibility is really important. One of the things that we care a lot about is visibility, and I'm going to go back to the web and show you this this feed here. So the part of what we're looking at here, if you look at the right-hand side of the page here, what you can see is that these are inbound searches landing on Inspire from search engines. So, and there have been 34,000 of them in the last 24 hours. So the reason that's happening is because the words that are written in Inspire by all of the different members get indexed by search engines, and that leads to people discovering them. And so this translates into increased visibility for your organization. And so when you look at those growth graphs, what we have found is that generally about half of the members in a community come from the partner organization, that is you, voting it, and the other half from people on Google discovering the words that are being written by their fellow members. Okay, so slide 16 here really summarizes kind of what we provide and what you provide. So let me run through it. There's a process here. So when you come to us and we partner to set up a community, we design each group to have your organization's logo, colors, feel, content, everything about your organization that you want to include there. We then take care of hosting it, maintaining it, backing it up, etc. So you never have to worry about the platform that it's running on. And we're extraordinarily stable, and we can tell you all of the details about that on the technology side as well. Our moderators, as I said earlier, care in the community. We also have a help desk and tech support as part of that. And we provide to you a lot of data. So I want to be clear that the data we provide you are aggregate data about your community, and we also share. We let members know that by joining the group, we share their email addresses back with you, the partner organization. I think that's really important. It's not Inspire's goal to be in the way of you marketing to your members. This is your community, and you should be able to do that unfettered. So that's really important. And then we do other marketing communications effort to support and grow your community. Our head of communications, John Novak, is wonderful and has worked with a lot of our organizations to help augment the efforts you already have in place. We have to do three things. Just to link to the community from your website. It's just very straightforward link from the home page. Pick a point person that we can work with and promote the community. Pretty straightforward stuff that you would do anyway. I'm sure we have questions. We'll get to those in the Q&A. So the next steps are really straightforward. Danielle is, many of you probably know Danielle already. Please feel free to email her. Here's her email address. I think I have her phone number on the next page. Then we have a partner agreement, which is really straightforward, and then we, we'll take you through the process and figure out how to get it going. And what I'll say just in closing here is we have tremendous respect for what each of you have built. All of us at Inspire have medical conditions of our own, some more serious than others, some rarer than others, but all important. And we all know what it's like the patient and the caregiver, and we know how important all of these things are. As far as our company's principles and value, they're at the footer of every single page in Inspire. If you go to any page in Inspire and go down to the bottom, you can click on our principles to read them. We only do health because our belief is that we can only do a great job in health community if we focus only on health, and that's something we've adhered to since we started the company. So that's all I have. I would love to take questions now, and I'll try to illustrate things on the web as appropriate as well. So thank you.
Super. Thanks very much, Brian.
Sure.
So first question, how do you address the risk of incorrect information about a disorder or condition being propagated throughout the group?
Yeah, that's a great question. This is something that's come up. Our great partner was the Children's Inn at NIH, and their group is in here. I'll see if I can find it. This came up with the NIH in the very beginning, and it always comes up. One of the things that we also have a couple levels of moderation, and actually, you could, if Danielle, maybe you could talk to that, or Heather is able to. I know Heather's on the phone.
Yeah,
grab the mic.
This is Danielle Leach. I'm the Director of Partnerships at Inspire. Hi. We essentially have 3 levels of moderation, and this is where we feel that this question about medical content really gets addressed. It's our team that does the basic community guidelines and general good behavior and makes sure that the community is running well. And like we illustrated before, we at least ask our partners to keep a helicopter eye view on what's happening in the community so that when those miscommunications come up, there's an opportunity for you guys to jump in and correct them and illustrate your resources easily on what questions are coming up that may be incorrect, and you can go in and correct them. As we often say, and then also the opportunity in the last level of moderation is the community itself. It has the ability to flag a post. I don't know, Brian, if you want to go up and show how you can flag report posts and show people how to do that.
Sure.
That where the report post feature really is used quite often, and Heather could probably talk about that in more detail. But I think with those 3 levels of moderation, it does really capture a lot of that misinformation. And what we always say is those conversations are happening all over the web anyway, and that for an organization, it's a great opportunity to see what misinformation is out there, what needs to be addressed more in their community, and gives them the opportunity to address it through their newsletters, through their conferences, to highlight what needs to be done.
You'll see here if I So Heather runs the support desk. When I click this, it's not going to delete the post. Rather, it's going to send it to Heather's team. I think it normally says thank you. The post. There we go. Thank you. We'll review this discussion right away. What we found is that if something inappropriate or wrong or questionable appears, it gets reported incredibly rapidly, often within 2 minutes, after someone writes it, because there's so many eyes on it all the time. Yeah, so that process works really well.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Another question, how do you explain to groups that may already be using either Google Groups or Yahoo Groups, and who feel like there's, and the group either themselves have put up a Facebook page or several people within the organization have put up several Facebook pages, how do you talk about what Inspire has to offer, given that groups often have multiple communication channels?
Sure. This is actually a really, really important point. So let me give you an example. So short bowel syndrome is a very rare condition, right? And our belief is the following. It's fine. It is. You may be thinking, well, why not? Why isn't more better? Our feeling is that, particularly with rare disorders, if you don't have critical mass of conversation in a group, the group won't really take off. I'll just give. I'm just picking this completely random, but here's someone in the shoes saying that after 10 weeks, and he's described bowel, and then you see that there are 27 replies. The reason there are 27 replies, all of this support and understanding, is because you have a critical mass of people. And what we have found is that what makes rare disease groups often not succeed is when there's not sufficient critical. Really strongly about when it comes to having multiple channels. I hope that makes sense, but we can follow up more about that too.
I think it does. I'm
Okay.
just seeing if there's any more questions. No, there's actually no more questions at this point. I think
Okay.
a couple I could think of as a disease advocacy group leader with that hat on rather than my genetic alliance hat would be, I know you said there's all kinds on the part of the disease organization, from light to heavy to medium. What do groups report back to you about what they feel like the amount of time they need to spend entails?
Good question.
I think on average, and I can tell you, I used a community from the patient from ovarian cancer, which was a staff of just want to keep a helicopter eye view on what's happening and regular patient engagement. I'd say 20 minutes a day, 20, 30 minutes a day at most, even less, to keep a good sense of what's going on. And if you want to post on, it's not onerous. Again, we will train volunteers to be volunteer moderators with us. We can train staff to feel comfortable in the space. But it should not, again, it's really, we've seen a wide range, but to do it well, I'd say about.
Great. So the question is there a research side to this? Do researchers, for example, post clinical trials? Do you allow researchers in? Or do you rely on the patient, the different groups, to share the information?
Good point. We expressly, you know what, I'm going to pull this up on screen. we don't allow commercial postings without our permission. So whenever we get approached by researchers a lot, and they range from super professional organizations to students who are doing research for undergraduate and graduate school. And so we have rules. So what we say is that if a researcher wants to post a clinical trial, that they come to us and that we post it. And frankly, what we typically do is we turn to our partners, that is you, and we talk about it. Our partners, of course, are the subject matter experts about the disease. We go to great lengths not to do things that would be upsetting to you, and we want to support your efforts. And so we like that to be a conversation. And so, sometimes we'll have the most earnest researcher saying, I need to find 50 people for this, and we say you just have to go through the right process. You can't, to this thing I have on screen, you can't just by yourself use it for commercial use or solicitation. Question?
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, looks like we're good. Looks like no more questions. We do want to encourage folks on the phone to contact Inspire. I don't know if you can put, Brian, the slide back up. With address.
Here we go. Danielle started. And any of the other groups can sort of hard to be, a good supportive partner for organizations, and we'd love to do that.
Right, and I think folks on the phone also know that Genetic Alliance is fairly careful with whom we partner.
Yes.
And we've been very delighted to partner with Brian and Danielle and Inspire in general, seeing that the community benefits a great deal from the question. So how does Inspire differ from Rare Connect?
Danielle, can you take that?
Sure. It's just a different type of platform. Rare Connect obviously is with Eurydice and with Nord. Again, Rare Connect is not that. But another, what we offer and what we're trying to accomplish, again, is because Genetic Alliance is our partner, and we are working closely with them to figure out ways in which we can integrate aspects of what initiatives they have. We think that it would be beneficial as you're moving forward with partnerships for creating your community, that being within this same platform would be beneficial for the long-term strategic plan as we are trying to expand and trying to figure out ways in which we can collaborate even more.
Another thing I'll add to that is size. If you look here, the Genetic Alliance group here has 14,500 members in it. And if you look at a lot of the other rare groups here, there's quite a critical mass of members. I think the more members that we can have in one platform, the better, because of search engine optimization and discovery. And again, I feel like fragmenting it, just isn't helpful. So that's I believe that in rare disease we're substantially larger than those other platforms. So
yeah, and I'll jump in on that too. That yes, so the Inspire network is probably the largest rare disease platform in one place. Brian's absolutely right. We continue to explore ways. For example, the reason we're having this in the Registries for All webinar series is to see how does Registries for All connect with the Inspire community, and how do we make those porous so that things can go back and forth from one to the other, looking at collaboration, and we're open to that with whomever across the community, and always have been. And the other thing I think is just we know each other better in a way because we kind of all grew up in this community. I think most people know that my 2 children were diagnosed in 1994 with a rare disease, and I was thrust into the same kind of world that most of you are in, and that's also true for Inspire folks as well. So Although we've designed different resources, we think they're complementary, and we think that they are complementary on a broader scale with even what's being formed elsewhere. There's an active effort in the U.S. actually to begin a national network that's being promulgated essentially by the group that's called PCORI, which is the Patient Research Outcomes Institute, and it has 1% of the Medicare budget in the U.S. And they will accept, they will fund 18 applications in January for patient-powered research networks. And Genetic Alliance put in a letter of intent on that, and I think most of you, again, have seen that we put out an RFP, so we want 10 disease groups to join us. We already have 5 on our Genetic Alliance Registry and Biobank platform, but we see all of these things interconnected, and the goal of PCORI at the end of the day is in 18 months to have standards that allow interoperability between various networks like Inspire and Registries for All, and I'm sure lots of other ones in the U.S., that they all become part of what they're calling a National Clinical Research Network, so that people are not lost, people are counted, their stories are counted. And then I think the other advantage of Inspire as the world turns toward informatics and informatics solutions is these rich stories that are being posted at a rapid rate on the Inspire website are going to allow hypotheses to be generated, and the lived experience of individuals, and this is what PCORI wants, which is great. We finally, after 17 years of saying this ourselves, at least in my case, we finally have a federal institution that's also saying it is important that the story come from the individual, that the problem come from the individual, that we solve the problems of individuals and communities, not that those just be generated by researchers who have good ideas. And while that's a machine, we have funded for ages, centuries in the world, researcher-generated and hypotheses that need to be tested. The idea of those arising from individuals is really going to be important, and I think if you work together with the richness of the kind of work we're emerging in Inspire and put that with a platform like Reg for All that's standards-based and HL7 and SNOMED CT and all the other kinds of codes, the combination of those two are really going to be very powerful, and in this national network, the same thing. So we really see the world moving much more toward this as well. And then another question just came in, Brian and Danielle. How much control does the organization have over their page? I think you did go over that a little bit, because it's from a lot to a little, depending again on the interest of the group. But if you could address that, it'd be great.
Yeah,
and absolutely. Say a word about the page you're just on there. That's also good. The kind of scrolling content piece.
Oh, right. Sure. Just briefly about the scrolling content. If you look at inspire.com/NOW now, you'll see content sort of as a fire hose as it's being written in real time. And in fact, if you sign in at the top right, you'll see members-only content, and if you're not signed in, you'll see just the public content, which is just an illustration of how we respect the privacy preferences. As we look at the different groups in Inspire, so you can see Genetic Alliance, their logo and their colors. I'll show you how. I'll give you a couple examples as we're talking of how different this can look. Here's one from a non-rare condition. I'll just show you the Osteoporosis Foundation. If we look at the National Osteoporosis Foundation, you can see that it has quite a different look. And again, this just echoes, they just did a website redesign, it echoes that. If you look on the right here, it has information about their patient education campaigns on the right. You can see links. So on the right-hand side, you can see the Osteoporosis Foundation resources, and it takes you straight to their site. So when I click here, I go to the Osteoporosis Foundation news page. And that's something we'd like to integrate. Then you can see their Twitter, so all of their tweets are flowing in here on the right. And then sometimes we even have video and things like that that are provided by the partners. So, and then there are other partners, I have to say, who really don't have a lot of preferences there, and just say, please design it, the way you think looks good, and we do something very sort of simple and tasteful. So, yeah, as Sharon said, that's really up to you. We have designers on staff who work with you to do that. One thing Danielle's just pointed out to me is these discussion topics on the right are not random. So these discussion topics are provided by you. We typically give you what we think might be a good starter. You can edit slightly, or you can write to what you want. That's actually one really, really important thing, because every discussion that's written falls into one of those categories, and you'll see that they're different for the different groups.
At one point, just if you need changes, that right-hand side is really your space to play with in terms of the resources that you want to, point your patients and caregivers to. If you have an upcoming conference, if you have an upcoming webinar, for example, you can talk to our team and just send us the links, and we will get them up on the right-hand side. We just need a couple days. But you basically hand us what you want on that right-hand side, within this particular format, because we do have a framework that we work within. But again, it's there for you to put up YouTube videos, like Brian said, and there's ways in which things further discussion about that, and we encourage you to explore the different ways the different communities, different organizations have approached that right-hand side. But again, you have that control to point in the direction of where you want your members to go.
Great. And there was a second part of that question, but you've already answered it, so we'll leave it. But it was how do you correct incorrect medical information? And I think you described that well, so I don't know that we need to answer that again.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Any last words from you guys?
No, I just, I would love to work with each of you. Our goal at Inspire is, I think, the same that many of you have, which is to advance medical research and to, in the long run, help us all through, the power of the patient to improve science and our health. And so I hope we're creating something valuable, and the more partners like you that are part of it, the more value we can create together. So thank you. Thanks for your time, and we'd love to meet you.
Thanks very much. And as I said, this webinar will be archived on our website. It'll be at geneticalliance.org/webinars. We will also send the link out to Inspire community, so we'll post it there. They can post it there as well. And then we encourage you to get in touch with them. You can see their information on the screen again. Danielle at inspire.com, pretty easy email to remember. And we thank you all for listening in, and make sure you sign up for our next webinar.